They tried every method to kill him: fire, blades, even bulls, but he wouldn't die. And now, he's being sent to an island where death is waiting around every corner. The story opens with a young man named Gabimaru facing execution. The executioner strikes his neck repeatedly with a sword, but instead of cutting through, the blade breaks against his skin. This surprises the officials, but not Gabimaru, who is later returned to his prison cell. We learn that he was trained as a shinobi since childhood, developing a superhuman body through years of rigorous training. A woman named Sajiri documents the failed execution, noting that breaking a blade with his flesh is nothing special for someone with his abilities. Gabimaru agrees, dismissing the executioner's skills as terrible. The next day, frustrated by the failed beheading, the Lord orders Gabimaru to be burned at the stake. They set him on fire, but after a moment, they're horrified to see his eyes staring back at them through the flames, completely unharmed. Back in his cell with only minor burns, Gabimaru insists he's not trying to resist. He genuinely wants to die. During an interview with Sajiri, who explains she's there to record events, Gabimaru reveals he doesn't know his parents but heard they were killed by the village chief when he was a baby. He says he has no dreams because shinobi only live to kill as ordered. He explains he was captured after his fellow shinobi betrayed him when he tried to leave the village, something strictly forbidden. On the following day, the Lord tries another method, having Gabimaru torn apart by bulls. They tie his legs to two different animals, but instead of being ripped in half, Gabimaru's superhuman strength tires out the bulls. Seeing this, Sajiri confronts him about clearly resisting execution and asks why he wanted to leave his village in the first place. Gabimaru claims he was the best shinobi there, earning the chief's recognition and even marrying his daughter. According to him, he grew tired of his wife's naivety and told the chief he wanted out, which led directly to his current situation. That evening, one of the observers warns Sajiri about Gabimaru, calling him a hollow man who killed 20 people before his arrest. Yet Sajiri wonders why someone truly hollow would fight so hard. Meanwhile, in his cell, Gabimaru admits to himself that he has indeed been unconsciously resisting the executions, but decides to finally let himself die the next day. However, when they try boiling him in hot oil, he somehow survives again. He's confused, wondering why he can't die when he believes he has no attachments to this world. Completely frustrated, the Lord just wants the ordeal to be over. Sajiri informs him that she's made arrangements. They escort Gabimaru through a tunnel, with the Lord laughing at the thought that Gabimaru is finally going to die. In a room at the end of the tunnel, Sajiri is waiting. The Lord reveals that she's actually a sword tester and executioner from the Amida clan who can behead anyone with a single strike. Gabimaru realizes she's the real deal, so he breaks free from his restraints and tries to dodge her attack. To his shock, she manages to cut his neck even though he evaded. As they continue fighting, Sajiri makes a surprising observation. She can tell that Gabimaru lied about his wife. She believes he actually loves her, which is why he unconsciously refuses to die. This hits home for Gabimaru. He thinks back to how his time with his wife softened him. Grabbing a sword to fight Sajiri, he insists she knows nothing about his world and that he truly is hollow. But a flashback reveals his wife telling him the opposite as she embraces him. She calls him kind, saying he was the only one not repulsed by her face. We learn about the harsh reality of their village, where men are treated as soldiers and women exist only to bear children. The village chief, wanting his daughter to remember her place, burned her face to stop her from trying to live like a normal woman. Despite this cruelty, she tells Gabimaru that people's hearts don't die so easily as she kisses him. The flashback reveals Gabimaru's true desire to stop being a shinobi and live a peaceful life with his wife. When he told the chief about this plan, that's when he was betrayed. Back in the present, Gabimaru fights with renewed vigor, pushing Sajiri to her limits. He claims he can never live as a normal human no matter how hard he tries, but Sajiri offers him a surprising chance. She shows him a pardon that would clear all his crimes and grant him the shogun's protection, with just one condition. He must journey to what she calls the underworld. Confused, Gabimaru listens as Sajiri explains about a mysterious land called Shinsenkyo that was recently discovered. It's said to hold the Elixir of Life that grants immortality. The shogun had sent a search party to find this elixir, but all that returned was a boat filled with flowers. Upon further examination of the boat that returned from Shinsenkyo, officials discover a body among the flowers. Learning of this, the shogun orders his men to gather criminals, viewing them as expendable, to send to the island in search of the Elixir of Life. Those who succeed will be pardoned of their crimes. Sajiri reveals to Gabimaru that she's there to look for potential candidates for this mission, and she sees him as a perfect fit. She tells him something that strikes a chord. His wife is still waiting for him in the village, and joining this expedition is his only chance to reunite with her. The Lord, still determined to see Gabimaru executed, orders his men to attack. But Gabimaru unleashes his ninjutsu, creating fire from his body and easily defeating all the guards in the room. As the Lord falls to his knees, Gabimaru agrees to join the expedition, now determined to survive and return home. We then see a flashback of Sajiri watching her father perform an execution so perfect that the condemned man didn't even realize he'd been beheaded. This inspired Sajiri to replicate his technique. Though she became skilled at executions, she's haunted by visions of the people she's killed. A man named Aizen observes that doubt and fear in her swordsmanship causes people to die painful deaths. He tells her to look at the reflection in her blade, saying that truth is reflected there. Back in the present, Sajiri blindfolds Gabimaru and brings him to join the other criminals as they're assembled before the shogun. They're all given the same orders: travel to Shinsenkyo and return with the Elixir of Life. The successful criminal will be pardoned, news that immediately changes the atmosphere as the criminals realize they have a chance at freedom. When the speaker begins describing the island, the criminals interrupt, saying it sounds like a fairy tale. To prove the island's reality, the criminals are ordered to remove their masks, revealing a man with flowers growing out of his body. This man, they're told, returned alive from the previous expedition, but had strange lumps all over his body that began blooming the next day. This disturbing sight makes many criminals hesitant, no longer eager to risk their lives. An official coldly reminds them they've all been sentenced to death anyway, so this expedition is actually a generous offer. A criminal named Nurugai points out that they know almost nothing about the island or whether the elixir even exists. When an official tells them they're free to drop out, one man tries to leave, only to be immediately executed as a warning. The official then reveals that members of the Amida clan will serve as monitors during the expedition. If the criminals try anything suspicious, they'll be killed on the spot. Additionally, if their monitors die for any reason, they'll also be executed. This arrangement seems designed to prevent any escape attempts. The shogun then whispers something to an official, who announces that their numbers need to be reduced before departing, as they don't have resources for all of them. While the criminals are confused by this, a man named Chobe quickly understands, choking another criminal to death. He explains to the others that the officials want them to kill each other, a fact the official confirms without hesitation. Chaos erupts as the criminals begin fighting to the death, while the shogun watches with excitement, though one official views it as pointless violence. The shogun asks about the criminals with exceptional skills, and the official mentions several, noting that Gabimaru is the most remarkable. Observing the melee, they notice Gabimaru isn't moving and no one is attacking him, a testament to his fearsome reputation. Meanwhile, Aizen notices how the violence is overwhelming Sajiri. He questions whether she's suited for this mission, suggesting the island will be even more brutal. When he tells her she should just live quietly in her mansion, Sajiri responds that she would have if she could. A flashback shows young Sajiri running from bullies who mock her family for making their living through executions. One day, she picks up a sword and sees reflections of spirits haunting the blade, a burden she's carried ever since. Back in the present, some criminals see Sajiri as an easy target and charge at her, hoping to escape. Aizen wonders if she can handle them, but having accepted her role as an executioner, Sajiri swiftly defeats them all. Afterward, she's again haunted by visions of her victims, but the spirits disappear when Gabimaru speaks up, saying that killing people is never acceptable. Gabimaru asks if there's another way to select expedition members, pointing out that not everyone wants to kill. An official threatens him for speaking out and orders another criminal to attack him. The man throws a large stone at Gabimaru, who easily dodges it. Though Gabimaru tries to resolve the situation peacefully, the criminal refuses to back down. Left with no choice, Gabimaru kills the man, then proceeds to dispatch the other criminals with such brutal efficiency that even the shogun looks unsettled. Sajiri observes Gabimaru through her sword's reflection and sees countless souls surrounding him, yet they don't seem to disturb him at all. This makes her realize what she truly needs isn't to rid herself of fear and doubt, but rather the strength to carry the burden of the lives she's taken. The officials finally stop the bloodshed, announcing that they've selected who will join the expedition. It turns out the 10 criminals chosen are the same ones previously noted for their exceptional skills. They all board a ship bound for Shinsenkyo. As they sail, Gabimaru remembers witnessing the village chief being pierced by multiple weapons without falling, proof of his immortality, supposedly from medicine acquired from a land across the sea. When they finally reach Shinsenkyo, Gabimaru tells Sajiri that the Elixir of Life is indeed real, though he's uncertain if they'll find it on this particular island. As they begin exploring, Sajiri comments on the island's beauty, but Gabimaru finds it unsettling, wary of what might be lurking around them. He breaks his restraints, which Sajiri immediately objects to, but Gabimaru asks her to let it slide. He points out their precarious situation. They only have a strange drawing as a clue, and their food will last just 3 days. Unmoved by his reasoning, Sajiri threatens to kill him if he doesn't comply, reminding him that she's not his friend but his executioner. Reluctantly, Gabimaru allows her to bind his hands again. Suddenly, a giant steel ball strikes Gabimaru, sending him flying. The weapon returns to its owner, a criminal named Kayan, who believes he's eliminated a competitor. To his surprise, Gabimaru gets back up, casually cracking his dislocated neck back into place. Sajiri explains that Kayan is a warrior monk who collects weapons from those he's killed. Gabimaru notices Kayan's hands aren't bound and questions this inconsistency. When Sajiri asks Kayan's monitor, Kishu, about this, he dismissively says they can just tie the criminal's hands on the way back. He adds that Sajiri is the lowest-ranked executioner because she's too rigid about the rules. Kayan proudly displays his arsenal, eager to test his weapons on Gabimaru. Though Gabimaru initially refuses to fight, not wanting to waste time while others search for the elixir, Kayan explains his strategy. Eliminate the competition first, then take his time looking for the prize. Realizing he has no choice but to defend himself, Gabimaru prepares to fight while still trying to follow Sajiri's order to bind his hands. Kayan attacks, smashing his mace against Gabimaru's head, but the weapon shatters on impact. Undeterred, he unleashes his other weapons while Gabimaru continues tying his hands, enduring blow after blow that breaks Kayan's weapons. Just as Gabimaru finishes binding his hands, Kayan thrusts a spear at him. Gabimaru breaks the spear and launches Kayan into the air. As Kayan's weapons fall toward them, Gabimaru kicks one of the spears upward, impaling Kayan through the chest. Sajiri thinks the fight is over, but Kayan gets back up, claiming they're just getting started. However, he quickly falls to Gabimaru, who deftly uses Kayan's own weapons against him. With the fight concluded, Kishu beheads the defeated Kayan and heads back to the ship. Gabimaru wonders if Kishu wants to fight as well, but the executioner says he's just doing his job and doesn't take sides. He considers himself lucky to be heading back so soon and reminds Sajiri that she'll be spending time with a dangerous criminal. Before departing, Kishu informs them that other criminals are already breaking the rules. He predicts they'll continue killing each other until only one remains. He also reveals that more expendable criminals are being recruited, including people from Gabimaru's village and the Yamada clan. Meanwhile, we see another executioner named Aizen tying their boat to a tree when his assigned criminal, Rokuroda, suddenly attacks him out of hunger. Though Aizen tries to defend himself, his sword shatters and he's devoured by Rokuroda. Other criminals meet similar fates across the island. As Kishu leaves, he warns Sajiri not to let her guard down, causing her to wonder about Gabimaru's true nature. At that moment, Gabimaru suddenly attacks Sajiri, though she manages to push him back. As they fight, Gabimaru remembers how the village chief killed his parents because they wanted to leave the village. The chief taught him that emotions make a person weak, and that strength is the only way to protect what matters. While exchanging blows with Sajiri, she reminds him that killing her would violate the rules of the expedition. Gabimaru replies that he needs to find the elixir before other shinobi from his village arrive, and he sees her as a hindrance to that goal. The fight continues, with Sajiri believing Gabimaru should be executed immediately, yet she finds herself hesitating. Interestingly, Gabimaru seems to have the same problem, not understanding why he can't bring himself to kill her either. He recalls his wife's advice to follow his emotions. We learn that since meeting his wife, Gabimaru has been experiencing emotions that have sometimes interfered with his missions. During the fight, he spots an opening but hesitates at the crucial moment when he could have delivered a finishing blow, causing him to get pushed back. He views this hesitation as weakness, something that could prevent him from surviving on this island. So he continues his assault while trying to remember the village chief's advice about becoming hollow again. Gabimaru manages to break Sajiri's sword, but she defends herself with her sheath when he tries to cut her down. Though he eventually gains the upper hand and prepares to finish her, he struggles to deliver the final blow. He admits he still has emotions and begins crying, believing he has become weak. Sajiri, however, tells him it's not weakness but the seed of strength, arguing that facing his emotions rather than fleeing from them is true strength. She decides to overlook his attack, wanting to see him confront his emotions and reclaim his life. Meanwhile, another criminal named Tamiya realizes his hand has been stung by a butterfly. Recalling what happened to the man who returned from the previous expedition, he quickly slices off his own hand and kills the insect. His executioner, Fuchi, is confused until Tamiya shows him the human-faced butterfly, insisting it's not from their world. At that moment, his severed hand transforms into flowers, and more strange creatures appear around them, including a giant monster. Back with Gabimaru and Sajiri, they find themselves surrounded by monsters too, including a fish-like creature. Gabimaru tells Sajiri to stand back as he prepares to fight. We then see a flashback revealing Tamiya's past. He was an extremely skilled swordsman who became an officer for a lord. After getting drunk with his lord one day, he took offense at a comment and ended up destroying the mansion's gate and killing the lord, which led to an entire clan hunting him down and his eventual arrest. Back to the present, Tamiya and Fuchi arrived on the island. Tamiya noticed that his executioner carries dissection tools. Fuchi explains that the Amida clan also dissects bodies to develop effective medicines. The fish creature attacks Gabimaru, who easily evades and kicks the monster's head. However, the creature grabs his foot and slams him against the ground. Though Gabimaru quickly recovers, he remembers the shinobi rule against fighting unknown enemies and considers retreating. Before he can, the creature restrains him, smashes his body against trees, and throws him. Sajiri is shocked to see him actually injured, and they both realize they should run, but soon discover giants approaching from all directions. With survival at stake, Gabimaru goes berserk, using his ninjutsu to destroy a giant's head before brutally dispatching the others. While Sajiri watches in awe, contemplating how dangerous their mission is, a giant attacks her from behind. She evades, but centipede monsters grab her, restricting her movement as the giant prepares to strike. Gabimaru saves her by cutting off the giant's arm, but this snaps him out of his berserk state. As the fish monster moves to attack them again, an executioner named Genji arrives and kills the creature. A ninja named Yuzuriha joins them, complimenting Gabimaru for killing all the monsters by himself. Gabimaru questions her motives as she approaches, trying to seduce him into working together. He restrains her, insisting her seduction won't work on him. Yuzuriha claims she was just testing the waters, but is serious about forming an alliance. Sajiri wonders why she has two executioners with her, so Genji explains that he was originally assigned to another criminal who was killed by Yuzuriha. He concluded that one executioner might not be enough to control her, so he joined the party. Gabimaru finds this explanation suspicious, leading them to conclude that Genji must have been seduced by Yuzuriha. The other executioner introduces himself as Senta. Yuzuriha warns them about the creatures in the area, emphasizing that while finding the elixir is important, they can't rush in without a plan. Sajiri agrees that working together is reasonable, but when Yuzuriha tries to hug Gabimaru, he restrains her again, stating he can't trust her. Yuzuriha uses her legs to pull him closer, saying trust isn't necessary since they'll eventually betray each other anyway. Only one criminal will receive a pardon, after all. She suggests simply using each other for mutual benefit in the meantime. As Gabimaru backs away, wondering what she has to offer, Yuzuriha reveals she possesses valuable information. She warns them that the real danger on the island is the human-faced butterfly, which carries both hallucinogens and poison. When asked how she obtained this information, she casually mentions testing the insects on another criminal whom she ended up killing, revealing just how dangerous and ruthless their new ally might be. Sena points out something curious about the monsters they've encountered. They're wearing items with Buddhist designs, which strikes him as odd. Yuzuri suggests they should work together since there's still so much they don't understand about the island. Gabimaru agrees to fight alongside them, but makes it clear he's not fully cooperating. He just wants information. As Sajiri observes their interaction, she reflects on everything that's happened since arriving on the island, but suddenly collapses. The scene shifts to a flashback featuring a man named Toma who is about to become an executioner. Aizen tells him he needs to take the final step by killing a criminal. Toma mentions he has a request and visits his brother Chobe, telling him he knows how to stop the magistrate's men from pursuing them. Back in the present, the brothers find themselves face to face with three giant creatures. Chobe, always quick to act, immediately attacks. We learn about the brothers' past. After their parents died, they lived in poverty before being taken by bandits. Chobe's strength lies in his ability to quickly understand situations, and he eventually rose to become the bandit king. In their current fight, Chobe manages to cut down one giant, but his knife breaks. As they try to escape, a monster grabs Toma's hair. When Chobe returns with an axe to help, He gets struck in the face by a staff-wielding creature who warns that murder is a sin. The monsters begin talking, making Toma believe they've landed in hell. Undeterred, Chobei cuts through all the creatures and defeats them. Seeing such formidable guardians convinces him that the elixir must be real, and he decides they should eliminate everyone else on the island and claim it for themselves. Meanwhile, Sajiri regains consciousness in a cavern where Jinji informs her she was poisoned by butterfly scales. Despite her condition, she immediately gets up, determined to monitor Gabimaru. Outside, she finds Gabimaru preparing dinner while Senna repairs their torn clothes. During their meal, Gabimaru shares what he discovered while scouting the island. He found flowers resembling the man they were shown earlier, leading them to conclude that missing people have somehow transformed into plants. Though Gabimaru couldn't find anything matching the clue they were given, Senna suggests they shouldn't rely too heavily on the illustration since the officials clearly don't know much about the island. Sajiri notices a pattern with the island's creatures. They all have animal parts attached to humanoid forms. Senna adds that they wore items that seemed religious in nature, describing them as malformed gods, which appears to be a theme on the island. Later, Jinji tells Sajiri she should return to the mainland because she isn't strong enough to survive here. Senna counters that escaping wouldn't be easy, considering most people never return from the island. The story shifts to Executioner Tenza, who's trying to escape the island with Nurugai. They find what appears to be a way out when they spot a ship, only to discover it's been destroyed, along with all the other vessels around it. Tenza theorizes that these ships all attempted to leave the island but failed. As creatures begin to surround them, Tenza draws his sword, but they're attacked by a sea monster that forces them to abandon their boat and take refuge on a shipwreck. While fighting off tentacles and searching for a usable ship, Nurugai wonders if she's being punished for her past. In a flashback, we see she led samurai to her village, resulting in its destruction. The samurai spared her life only to use her to find other villages. While imprisoned, Tenza discovered her, recognized her innocence, and showed her a pardon offer. Back in the present, they encounter Kishu, who is transforming into flowers. Before Tenza can speak with him, a tentacle cuts Kishu in half. The sight reminds Nurugai of her dead grandfather, causing her to fall to her knees in despair. She tells Tenza to leave without her, blaming herself for the deaths in her village. Tenza defends her from the attacking tentacles and asks if she truly wants to die. Realizing she wants to live, Nurugai accepts the sword Tenza offers her. Fighting together, they manage to reach a boat, but soon discover that the currents and sea monsters surrounding the island prevent any escape. They decide they need to gather allies for a successful return journey. Back with the other group, Jinji continues to insist that Sajiri should sail home, but Senna thinks she could be useful if Gabimaru needs to be restrained, noting that Gabimaru seems to have changed since meeting her. That evening, Sajiri approaches Gabimaru, who asks if she's feeling better, revealing he knows that the wound he gave her accelerated the insect poison's effects. Gabimaru reflects on how Sajiri calmed him down earlier and claims she's actually stronger than him, though he can't quite explain it to her. He suggests that experience will help her realize her own strength. The next day, Sajiri firmly tells Jinji she won't be leaving the island. In response, Jinji draws his sword to intimidate her, but she quickly disarms him. As Jinji retrieves his weapon and scolds her, Rokuroda suddenly appears behind him and sends him flying with a powerful blow.